Okay, so I'm here with another video today to talk you through 3.6, which is training and development. First things first, same as any unit of work, the first thing I'm going to talk you through is our keywords. The two obvious keywords are training and development. Training is job specific, short term. It's the knowledge and skills that you need for a specific job. So to be qualified to be a plumber or to do an electrician's job. Development is longer term, it's broader, it's about growth of the worker, and it doesn't necessarily qualify them for a specific job, but it does offer them qualifications that can benefit them and the business potentially in the future. The next question you need to ask is, why do they bother doing it? And there's basically a lot of reasons why companies would train and develop their workers. Please remember that all of this is going to cost them money, so there has to be a really valid reason of why they're going to bother spending that money. Firstly, it could be that there's some sort of new machinery or new method of work in which companies wish to train their workers. So and that could be anything. That could be in manufacturing, that could be computer technology, that could be customer service, anything that their workers need to be trained in. The next is the need for development of personal skills. This is particularly important in customer facing roles like shop assistants or people who are working on call centres who need to know how to deal with customers and need to have good communication skills. But it's also important in HR situations where you've got a worker who's done something wrong or has been complained about, and you need to retrain them how to act basically as a decent person. Diversity in the workplace, that kind of comes into that, the whole HR issues. Basically teaching people how to be accepting, teaching people what is the right way to deal with other people, that sort of thing. Very importantly, health and safety, and I'm going to underline that. That's really, really important. A lot of what companies are training for is for health and safety, and there's two reasons for that. Firstly, it's morally the right thing to do and it protects your employees. But secondly, there's a cost implication, because if you don't train people properly in health and safety and they make some sort of mistake which injures somebody, injures themselves, chances are you as a company are going to get taken to court for not training them properly, and that's going to cost you some money and have bad PR. So that's really, really important. Oh, I've spelled that wrong. Things don't change. Management. Management is really, really important. Basically, you're training people how to move up the ladder. And that's quite an interesting one, because you can train people in management skills and they may not actually ever end up as a manager at your company. You're giving them skills which makes them employable elsewhere. However, training people internally to become managers means that they already know the company and they've already got that understanding of what your company is about and what your staff are about. So it's really valuable in that sense. It could simply be that you've got new staff who need to be trained. Obviously, new staff need to be trained. It could be that you've got new products that your staff need to be trained in. They need to see how the product works. They need to know why it's going to sell. They need to know all about it. It could be retraining, if their training was a long time ago. Or it could be personal development. I'm just going to put PD. It's basically about becoming a better person, giving you more understanding, helping you grow your skill set, but nothing job specific. Next question. What are the benefits? Basically, it helps your competitive position. If you've got new products, if you've got new machinery, if you've got new services, if you've got well-trained staff, you're keeping ahead of your competitors. So that's really, really important. It could improve productivity. We spoke about productivity in the last video about motivation. Productivity is the amount of work that workers can do in any given time period. So if you give them an hour, how much can they produce in that time? If you're training them and developing them, chances are they're going to get better at their job, so their productivity is going to improve. You've then got solving skills shortages. Basically, if you're training people, you can train them to do the jobs that you need them to do. So if you're advertising for a job, but you can't find anybody to fill it, take somebody internally, retrain them, fill that gap internally. It improves your customer service. And that's because of all these personal skills, all of their understanding of new products, all of their management training, and it improves motivation and retention, which you should know all about if you watched my last video. So now we need to know about what is training and what actually is development. We need to know about the different ways of doing it. So let's start with training. We're going to look at 3 different ways. Number 1, on the job. On the job training is basically what it says on the tin. It's internal, it's training that you do whilst on the job, whilst you're working. For example, McDonald's staff. When you get employed at McDonald's, how are they going to train you? They're going to put you on a shift, they're going to make you watch other people flipping burgers and putting the fries in the fryer, and they're going to show you how to do it. They're not going to send you to college to learn about how to work in McDonald's from a textbook. They're going to do it on the job. That's good because it's individualised. You can teach people how to do a specific job at that specific workplace. It's probably cheaper because you're not going to have to pay a college or another trainer to do the training. You basically do it yourself. Your employees start working straight away. They're working whilst they're training, which is potentially a good thing, potentially a bad thing. It's potentially good because they're already going to be earning the company money, but it's potentially bad because whilst you're training, you're more likely to make mistakes, which will cost the business money. It's bad, on the job training, is bad because the trainer, the person providing the training, is going to probably have to leave their general day-to-day role whilst they're giving the training. They're not going to be able to work full-time whilst delivering the training, so the productivity of the company might fall. The trainee's work might be poor quality. The quality of the trainee depends on the quality of the trainer. You have to make sure that the person delivering the training is already well trained and already understands the company well. If you deliver the training with somebody who's a bit rubbish at their job, then the person receiving the training is going to pick up all of those rubbish traits. There's no qualifications gained out of on-the-job training. It basically just teaches you how to do the job in hand. It doesn't qualify you to take that anywhere else. And it's only really suitable for one-on-one training. You can't train a whole group of people on the job. It doesn't work that well. The next type is off the job. And this is basically where you're sent somewhere else to do the training, a college, a specific training site like a HR office or something like that. It's not in the place of work. This is good for expert trainers. You're not asking somebody in the company to deliver the training, you're asking an expert to deliver the training. So if you're looking for, say, a car company releases a new car, it's not going to be somebody on the sales floor who is doing the training because they don't know the product. It's going to be somebody from the brand itself, from, for example, Volkswagen, they're going to deliver the training on the new Golf, and you're going to go to Volkswagen head office and deliver that new training on the new Golf. It's good for a change of environment for the workers. Basically, people like having a day out. They like getting a change of scenery. They like having a day out. Sometimes they even get a hotel thrown in, which makes them feel really valued. If the company is paying for their training and paying for them to stay in a hotel, that's going to make them feel valued, and that's then going to improve motivation and retention. It's bad because it's expensive. If you've got to pay somebody else to deliver the training, you've got to expend more money than you have by just delivering the training yourself. Chances are you're going to have to send somebody away to receive that training, which means that you're going to have to pay their travel costs. You're going to have to pay potentially for overnight stay, potentially for food. So it does work out quite expensive. That worker is then not in the workplace for however long they're completing that training. It could be 1 day, it could be 2 days. That then means they're not working. So you've got employee absences, and you might need to pay somebody to cover those absences. For example, if it was a teacher can't just disappear for 2 days and that's it, because their classes need covering, so you have to pay for cover teachers. So there's an additional cost to the business there. And a lot of off-the-job training results in qualifications, which is good for the worker, but bad for the company because it qualifies your staff to basically go elsewhere. The third is induction training. And induction training is your new staff training. I'm going to put another dotted arrow to new staff to really highlight that. This is what happens when you first join a company. You are initially trained on how to do the job, and that can be either off the job or on the job. There's no specification for that. It could be either. It could be, I think we've discussed before in class, some of you have jobs in restaurants and you were trained by basically turning up and doing a shift and watching what the other workers do. It could be that you need to be sent to a college or a training academy to learn something. It's really good for the worker. If you're just taken into a job blind and told off you go, it makes you feel really nervous. It makes you feel valued if you're given some sort of induction training, and that helps with your motivation and retention and your productivity. It means that you learn what's expected of you. You learn about the company and the culture. You learn all the relevant skills, and that makes you safer as well. It improves the health and safety. If you know what's going on in the company, chances are the risk of you messing it up is a lot lower. It's important to remember that there's a cost to this. Whilst it's really good for the company because your workers are more motivated, they're probably going to be retained for longer, they're going to be more productive, they're not going to have any sort of health and safety issues which are costly. It does cost you money initially. All of these things have a money implication. None of it is free. I'm going to put off the job as 2 monies because that's generally costlier. Lastly, development. And there's 2 ways that we're going to look at for development. Number 1, is apprenticeships. You've probably heard of apprenticeships. Some of you might have even started looking and considering apprenticeships. It's basically a long-term programme, 2 or 3 years, well structured with a balance between working and learning. So it might be a bit of on-the-job training, it might be a bit of off-the-job training. And at the end of it, you get a formal qualification that allows you to do a job. When I was younger, these were really common for trades, like builders, bricklayers, plumbers, electricians. But nowadays you can do an apprenticeship in lots of industries. It's a mix of college and work environment. You've got the 2 running alongside each other. It's good because it allows you to recruit people, and it allows you to recruit people cheaply. Apprentices aren't paid a lot. It's usually £3 an hour-ish. So it's cheap for the company. It's cheaper than hiring skilled workers. You hire unskilled workers and you train them up. Much cheaper. There's government subsidies. Basically, if you employ apprentices, you get some sort of cash handout. I'm not entirely sure how much it is, but businesses benefit from having apprentices. And your staff are working whilst they're learning. They're doing it alongside each other, so that's probably going to improve your productivity. For them, they're also earning whilst they're learning. It's not a lot, but it's better than earning nothing. However, if you have apprentices who drop out, that's money that you've wasted. People can also make mistakes while they're learning, which has a cost. It could be wasted materials. It could be that they make health and safety mistakes. That's a really big issue. Like I said, the pay is usually low, and the qualifications, whilst it's really good to have qualifications, they're usually really, really specific. So when you get a degree, if you get a degree in history, that's going to qualify you for lots and lots of different jobs in lots and lots of industries. With an apprenticeship, you're going to be qualified for something really specific, like plumbing. You're not then going to be allowed to go off and do electrician as well. The alternative form of development is professional development, and I'm just going to put it as PD. Imagine it like a PD day at school. What the teachers are doing on those PD days, not what you're doing on those PD days. It's a long-term programme that leads to personal growth for employees and sometimes qualifications. Not usually, but occasionally you can get a qualification out of professional development programmes. It's good because it improves the long-term potential of your workers. And as an employee, if you see that a company is willing to invest in your long-term development, you're going to feel more valued. That helps with your motivation. It can improve your efficiency and your productivity. It can help to meet future staffing needs. That's this issue. It solves your skills shortages. And it improves motivation and retention. This is really good for management training as well. Basically, you develop people long-term to be better managers before they become managers. You give them the skills that would allow them to become managers in the future. The disadvantages are it's expensive. Even PD days in school, there's a cost of that. There's the cost of the time of the people who are delivering that training. Workers may have to be away from work. If you're receiving development, professional development days, professional development programs, it's not on the job. You're not going to be able to do the work whilst you're doing it. You're going to have to go away, do some training, and then come back to work. So again, that means that you've got a worker who's not earning any money that day. They're not producing anything. They're not serving customers. And you might have to cover that. Like with teachers, like I said before, we can't just disappear and our classes just do nothing. You have to pay for cover staff to make sure that the work is still done. So that's a bit of an overall rundown of training and development, what training and development is, why companies do it, the benefits of doing it, and a bit of a summary of what the types of training and development are. Hope that helps.